there. So I'll just run through some non-airport things. Let Matt run through his. You can answer. He'll answer any of those questions, and then we can circle back. Obviously, certainly pleased for our community and for the infrastructure of our downtown with the support of the CRA on the new Palafox project from an ADA compliance standpoint, a stormwater standpoint. We know that doing work on a road like Palafox or like Maine or like Jefferson or Garden or Cervantes, all these things that we've experienced over the years will take some inconvenience and take some pain. But, I think we're squarely focused now on doing the best we can to get this project done on time and to get this done in a harmonious way to help our small businesses. That is what our primary focus is now with a bid in hand, is to get this project ready to go so it can meet its timelines. Everything that we can do on the city side, Adrian's done a great job of that. We'll continue to do that. And again, my focus will also be on everything that we can do to help the businesses in Palafox and the surrounding areas through this period. So, more to come, of course, on what some outside of just the marketing and everything that we've already been discussing, some of the ways that we'll be able to do that. So more to come, of course, before the end of the year. Wanted to mention and shout out for the community on being on the best places to retire list, number 19, U.S. News and World Report. I mentioned at Entrecon today that it's a nice problem to have, whether it's our airport or it's where to retire, best coastal city, safest city. We continue, feels like once a week, once every couple weeks, to be on one of these superlative lists of being the top or best or safest at something. So again, we certainly appreciate the recognition. This is usually when I'll get an email of someone saying, tell people to stop moving here. And we have not come up with a tactic so far to do that, nor do we plan on it. But again, we'll continue to invest in this beautiful place for our residents. And we are certainly appreciative of getting that type of attention nationally. The sidewalks on Q Street between Jackson and Cervantes, that installation has begun, and it was identified as a high-ranking sidewalk need on our city prioritization list. I believe this dates back several years now. I would have to go back and look at exactly when that process started, preceded me. But it's expected to be complete before Thanksgiving, weather permitting. And then there's some stormwater activity. I also mentioned at Entrecon today, by our count, we think there's more stormwater construction underway right at this moment in the city than we've ever had in the history from a financial perspective. And that does not count Langley Avenue, which will be another multi-million-dollar investment that should be starting relatively shortly, but also some work on Barrancas. We started installing bioretention cells on Barrancas between G and I Street. And those are landscape depressions that'll capture and treat stormwater. And it'll really alleviate some of that roadway flooding and provide water quality benefit. And that'll be complete just before Christmas. So a smaller project compared to 9th Avenue, Main Street, Langley, Hollis T. Williams. But nonetheless, we continue to stay aggressive on trying to handle that stormwater. So one more thing for me before I get Matt up here. We also, you may have seen when you walked in, we are starting a supplementary food drive here. Obviously, you guys have either reported on it or probably started to hear about it, the depletion at some of our local food pantries. We've already started internally. And, it's the first question when David and I talked about this is, we have 880 employees here. So you can safely say by percentage that there are employees that some of these changes and what's happening right now is going to impact. And so we think about our employees, but we also think about the public at large and any way that we can help Manna and others to help replenish that. So we certainly are inviting the public to join, whether they're here, whether they're at the council meeting tomorrow. We'd certainly love for them to participate and make it an easy opportunity. If we get a big crowd, and certainly we'd want to capitalize on trying to do good things here in the city limits. So you'll see those boxes around, and we absolutely urge, if you don't know where to drop off, or if you feel like Manna is further from town or harder to get to than City Hall, just want to let the public know that they can absolutely walk right in the front door and be able to drop stuff off here that will get in good hands. So with that, I'll throw it to Matt on a few airport updates, and then he'll take some questions and I'll take some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity. I think the big interesting item right now is obviously everything that's going on in the world of air travel around the country. And what we've seen here locally at Pensacola is we have seen some cancellations based on the broader issues with air traffic control. So I look back about a week when this all began. We've had 25 total canceled flights over the last week. But to put that in perspective, we typically see about 560 flights during that time. So what we've seen is about a 4.5% cancellation rate in airline flights. The big days were Friday and Sunday. As of yesterday, we had no cancellations. This morning we had one cancellation, but it was unrelated due to mechanical issues for an airline. But other than that, it seems to have smoothed out. It's a pretty seamless transition right now for people going through the airport. So we'll see how it goes moving forward. I do know locally we have great crews, both at Air Traffic Control and TSA. They're showing up to work, and they're a pleasure to work with. And my hat's off to them for coming to work every day and making this what is otherwise a tough situation for them. They're still coming to work, so I applaud them for that. So with that, I wouldn't mind taking any questions if you have them.
Man. Good job. Yeah, and I would second the. I really do appreciate our team. You guys also remember and reported on when we were running into some consistent issues. I guess it would be last spring, spring of 24. And I can certainly say, as a frequent user of the airport and being here, we are appreciative of how TSA has really stepped up since that point, having enough staff. I believe the fifth TSA lane is now complete, so that'll be ready for Christmas. And so what we saw was not only coming in, and certainly we appreciate Senator Scott helping us at that time, is that I think that probably unveiled some longer resource needs that maybe weren't as evident prior to that. But you got to give credit where credit's due, and certainly I think the efficiency of service, the resources that we have at TSA have really been consistently solid since then. And as the mayor is on his circuit publicly, out and about at the grocery store or whatever, that was a big topic of conversation. It's nice to be able to say, hey, we track how long these lines are by the hour, by the day. You name the hour, we can tell you how long it is. And when you're talking about the worst hours of going months or quarters of time being 30 minutes in line, 31 minutes in line, meaning clearly if you were in line an hour before your flight, you will make the flight. That is a good thing. And so credit where credit's due. They've since that issue, I felt really positive, and all the way down to really the attitudes of the team. Every time I go through there, everybody seems to have a good positive attitude. And when you do something, whether it's TSA or it's permitting or it's any of those jobs where you feel like you're impeding upon someone's ability to do what they want to do, that it's hard to sometimes manage that. And so I'm very appreciative of our TSA team that's been there so far. And it's really been quite an about face, and it's something that we've been able to sustain. That is everything I got on my list to share with you, but happy to take any questions.
Mayor, your finance director at this week's agenda review gave a pretty comprehensive 9-month update, and she highlighted the airport as having an exceptionally strong financial position. And she was pretty ebullient about it. And I'd like to find out from you, what do you attribute that to? I mean, why?
Excellent leadership, No, I don't say that just because Matt is here. I attribute that to leadership up and down the chain of command at the airport that has us in a good position. I attributed it to this is an amazing destination that people want to travel to. And whether you own a small business with 2 employees or you run an airport, there's one fundamental thing is you need a customer base and you need to be able to have a place that people want to be at, whether, again, the smallest of businesses or an airport. And so I think if you really look back, not just in the last year or last 2 years, but what's gotten us to this point is the demand. I think we've built a place in demand. We've built a good reputation for being easy for travelers. And again, when you start talking about 90+% of Baldwin County, Alabama flight business coming here, I think that says a lot about the ease of using the airport. And I also think not just that we've been good to work with as it faces the customers, which is always our number one priority, but I can't speak for carriers, but I can tell you that we've invested a lot of time and effort and energy over years of time to build good relationships with the carriers. And that's financial, that's personal. And so the best litmus test for that, John, is always, who's looking to add more service, add more seats, and continue to work with us. And so whether you look at the numbers of the cost per plane passenger and what it costs for Delta or your American or Southwest to fly someone out of here compared to our neighbors, whether you look at that, which we're very, very strong in, or the fact that we just are very proactive, and Matt's team is very proactive in us trying to find more routes. As a matter of fact, probably 2 out of 3 conversations that when I run into Matt is around this excitement, enthusiasm around additional service with some of our carriers. And that's always what I'm interested in, hearing about as well. So, so I think a lot goes into it, but we can have the demand, and if you don't have a well-oiled, well-operated machine out there at the airport, then it would fail. Or we could have a well-operated machine at the airport, but if we had a city that people didn't want to live in or go to, then we probably wouldn't be doing as well either. And so yeah, I think it's having all of those things really peaking at the right time is what has us in the financial position we're in.
So this, regarding her update.
Yeah.
It's a 2-part question.
I may bring Matt up
The
if you get
airport
real
was
technical on
highlighted,
this.
but she said your sanitation fund, your
Uh-huh.
sanitation account is not doing as well as you had hoped.
Mhm.
And she also mentioned Pensacola Energy
Mhm.
had some big headwinds facing it. What's going on with the sanitation account?
Well, listen, I think if you go back historically, sanitation has been, for the last several years, for one reason or another, has had some financial challenges. It's certainly not unexpected on our side because we've had a lot of change take place. We've had leadership change take place. We've gone back to recycling, and again, I'll use this with any business owner, big or small. When you take on a new initiative and you're trying to make sure that runs well, that could mean a little more labor. It could mean a little more attention as you get it off the ground. So, we certainly didn't reinvigorate and overhaul to now what we consider a very successful recycling program so far, 93% clean, which is not even a world of which we would have entertained when I got here. So the fact is, the product is there. We've got people that are willing to recycle, and that we aren't 50% contaminated. We're 7% contaminated. So what a great place to be. But with that, as you would know, as volume increases, as we have more people sign up, that will help revenues balance out. But we didn't make the decision on recycling because we thought it was for a quick dollar for the revenue stream of sanitation. We did it because it was for the greater good of the community. And as anything fledgling begins, there's going to be some bumps in the road. So what I can tell you is I've got the utmost confidence about where this sanitation department is at this moment of you asking me that question that I've ever had since I've been here. So I feel like the leadership is in the right place. I think our organization is in the right place. That we've been able to get over some hurdles and see light at the end of the tunnel. So the challenges have gone years long, from capital improvement, approvals and that preceded me and all that. And so sometimes when you're kind of trying to rebuild the business, the financial side of things, you got to tear a few things down to kind of get it built back up the right way. And I would probably oversimplify it by saying that's the tactic that we've taken. We've overhauled recycling that wasn't working, and we've made some other organizational changes and some procedural changes that'll set us up for the future. So if we're having the same issue in a year or 2 years, then certainly that would be a greater cause for concern. But when you've got a lot of ships passing in the night right now trying to get us where we need to be as an operation for sanitation, then I feel perfectly good with that, and I feel confident where we're going.
Follow up on that. During that presentation, Amy Memorial spoke about the sales tax and it just said being under budget. And I guess, are you at all worried about that? Is that giving you any indication that like our economy is slipping or anything like that, that could lead to tough decisions in the future?
Yeah, and I think there's, I mean, I would say yes, I'm aware of that. I would think that, there's a few different metrics that I put a lot of priority on when it comes to measuring our economy. Obviously, sales tax generation is a pretty clean one, right? That's how much people are buying in our county, in our city, and so that's one that we watch. Certainly, permits pulled, commercial permits, residential permits. That if you don't have a lot of permits being pulled for new construction, not because of the permit revenue, and if I know you know this, Jim. Permit revenue stays in the permitting office. It's not even that permitting revenue isn't even a revenue center for the other operations of the city, but it's a pretty good economic indicator to say, are people building things and investing, or are they not? So obviously, that's something that we keep an eye on as well. And then of course, property tax, which brings me, I guess, full circle. Is our property values increasing? And what does that look like for our picture versus, I was certainly not the mayor in 2007 or 2008, but if we were to have something occur to that level, then you have a lot of tough decisions to make from an operation. So those are those factors, those outside factors. Well, I guess one inside and two outside factors that we look at in the city. And as we start to plan and forecast, what we can or can't do. The reality is that between the sales tax and all of the unknown around property tax right now, I think any city or county or municipality, would be, overstepping to be counting on general fund property tax dollars to be growing, at this point. Certainly we are not, and we're in a wait and see approach. So, so I would kind of, to your question about sales tax, I would kind of marry the sales tax generation and the property tax generation. It's two different measurables, but I just mean those are the similar numbers that we are watching always, because if we start to see that, then there should be a light going off for us that if that starts to have impact on revenues, of course, in the case of sales tax, local option sales tax that we use to modernize our parks, to do sidewalks, to do those types of projects, if there's going to be less money to do that, then it is our job and our obligation, our finance department's obligation to be doing the best we can to forecast it. So, so those things do stay in front of us. I think this next 6 months is going to be, pretty interesting when it comes to what the ecosystem, what the financial snapshot of the city looks like when it comes to those two specific sources of funding, both the sales tax and the property tax.
All right, I believe she said that at least one of the sales tax funds wasn't going to make the estimate in the budget already. So that means that budget's going to have to be cut somewhat. I mean, what as far as tangible things you're looking at the city, what are you all looking at?
Well, remember where those differ. I think it's important is that the local option portion of the sales tax can only fund certain things. Now, important things, public safety, infrastructure. Make no mistake, we want more local option sales tax generated, no doubt about it. But it's limited. Whereas, obviously, the property tax, the one differentiator is when it's not in a CRA, like some of the projects we've been talking about recently, where those dollars have to be spent in those specific areas. I believe we're right around $22 million in property tax generated that goes into the general fund, which, of course, is the most versatile dollars that we have. Amy does a good job. Her team does a good job of. It's why we always are pretty conservative in our estimates, and we do that for a reason, not because it's not a contest of who can guess it to the dollar exactly correct. It's more being able to protect ourselves. So on one hand, it coming in short is a cause for concern. There also could be other measurables that are conservative, or we'll be able to see some additional revenue that can help us fill some of those gaps. But again, I think to your original question, I think the overall sense is probably a sense of pause and a sense of wait and see to see not only what's going to happen legislatively or constitutionally as it pertains to our largest single revenue stream that comes in to fund police and fire and all of those things, but it is our job to continue to monitor that. Not a whole lot we can do to control it on the sales tax side, but it's our job to monitor it, and we certainly do. And as we start to gear up for the next budget cycle, it's going to be certainly an obligation of my office and all of the department director's office to know that if you are coming in thinking that your budget's going to be jumping significantly this year, you probably got your head in the sand, and that we've got to treat it with the reality that we're seeing right now. So hopefully the winds change and on all fronts there, and we continue to be able to fund at the levels that we are, but we're keeping an eye on it.
Mayor, I wanted to ask about a potential raise for the mayor position here in
Uh-huh.
Pensacola. And given the state of the economy, as you mentioned, is now the time for a raise to be considered?
Well, you'd have to ask the councilman who proposed that. That certainly didn't come from our office, and from what I've read, it's for the next election cycle. So if anybody's already handing me the job, then I appreciate their support, but I haven't filed yet. I'm not really focused on that. You probably have to ask Councilman Bear about, his position and logic around that. What I can tell you is I've never taken this job for its income. And as a matter of fact, I would certainly be able to prove that if that was the case. I'm doing this because I care about this community. It's where I grew up. Whatever the board, the council wants to decide what the next mayor gets or doesn't get, I'll let them have that conversation. That's their right to put it on the agenda and do what they want to do. So, but I'm focused on doing great things in the city and keeping everybody safe and creating jobs and creating opportunity for our kids right now. I'm much less focused on things like that.
I wanted to kind of shift gears to the Reimagine Palafox
Yeah.
project. We saw 5 out of 7 council members in favor of moving forward, but some say it's just too expensive. So what the conversations is like moving forward to get everyone on board?
Well, I think I certainly appreciate the support of again, the majority that as I shared with them and shared publicly, I think a project like this is never going to be easy. Never going to be easy. If we came back next year or in 5 years or in 10 years and had to do Main Street or had to do another section of Palafox, it will never be easy. I think that's sometimes why you see us go 26 years on our main street without addressing any infrastructure or ADA or all that, not because everyone can't get behind it of those aspects, but it's hard because there's going to be inconvenience. So, I am appreciative that really what's come to light as we've had these meetings with business owners and property owners is less of the stigmas and myths about this being a beauty project and what the reality has been since the beginning, which is that we get one time to pull up this road generationally. We knew we were going to have to pull up this road to replace what FPL had already cut up. It seems very opportunistic and logical to me to let's address all of these stormwater issues, all of these ADA issues that are wildly overdue in many cases, and let's try to handle them all at once to actually lower the inconvenience. Really the opposite of some of the conversation out there that we're trying to increase inconvenience. The whole reason we started this conversation 3 years ago was to say, hey, if we're going to inconvenience business owners, pedestrians, bicyclists, whatever, that we try to do it in one shot and to minimize that. And so, as I shared, I've been personally in now 25, 26 meetings just on my own calendar about this project in the last 3 years. I couldn't, our city engineer, probably 100. So I can always reassure, for the folks questioning, did we look at this? Did we price that? Could we have value engineered this? The answer is yes. We did that over years of time. With public feedback throughout the summer as well. And I'm fully confident that this is something that we need for the city. That what I really hope is that we all focus on how we can help our small businesses. Our sidewalks are open and will be open the entire time. And so, what I'd ask of our residents, our visitors to our community is continue to support small businesses. Just because you go to New Orleans or you go to other big cities, there's work happening in the street where the sidewalk's open. We've all been there. So this is not going to be a foreign, type of setup for folks. They are not blocked from these front doors. And so my intent is to continue as passionately as I ever have, is to support the small businesses down on Palafox Street and hopefully have that new, safer, more accessible street on the other side.
Mayor, I want to circle back to the budget report, finance report.
Okay.
She pointed out also that she was concerned as the director on your ability, the city's ability to service requirements at Community Maritime Park.
Mhm.
She mentioned that a source of revenue over there is a surcharge on each baseball ticket.
Right.
And the baseball team pays for some number of improvements, but she said Bruce Beach was included in that calculation. And she said that something was gonna have to, there was gonna be a big delta unless something new or something
Right.
changed. And the idea of that baseball surcharge kind of stuck in my head. Have you talked to the owners over there about the need to take another look at the lease contract?
No, I've not talked about anything specific to the surcharge or anything like that. I do know because of the facility addition that's happening, the new batting cages. If you recall, Major League Baseball has come in and put significant regulations and minimums when all of that contraction took place a few years ago in Major League Baseball, or minor league baseball, excuse me, that now is owned by the major leagues. They basically said, hey, you're going to have this level of batting cage, this level of visiting locker room. Well, remember, our building was not built that way. It was not built to those standards. And so, certainly, as you mentioned, I think the ownership group has been more than willing to reach further than others to try to take on some of those costs on their own, whether it was required by the contract or not. I certainly can say that confidently. I know they have a project that to continue to keep up those standards that's underway now. So we're probably, I guess, John, to your question, we're probably due a conversation about not only about the expansion that's needed, the batting cages and all that's happening over there in the first base side, but even a greater conversation around what Amy was mentioning, and it kind of ties back to to Jim's questions about the sales tax and property tax. If you treat Maritime Park as its own city, right? I mean, in essence, it's got its own tax, its own surcharge. Then having more people in it paying in, as Amy pointed out. I mean, if two more of those parcels had been developed, and if Quint had been able to build a center for entrepreneurship or a YMCA, 10, 15 years ago there, or whatever, 10 years ago there, then that'd be two more payers into those CAM fees and everything else. And so, we're just as focused on that track as well, right? With our conversations with Inspire and in trying to get some development moving as well. So we'll probably due for kind of an ecosystem conversation about, how things look. And, the city's obligation is to maintain, specific aspects of that stadium. The stadium's not a spring chicken anymore, right? It's not old, but it's kind of, we're getting into that 15-year, kind of area. So anyway, that probably no significant decisions or conversations to this point, but we'll probably do one pretty soon.
So the answer, like she said, is if you could bring lots 5 and 4 in for a landing, then you got a problem worth having, right? So,
Right. Well, and listen, whenever those numbers got set, where the surcharge, I'm sure it was presumptive of an eventual development saying, hey, it's going to be this rate, and this is how we're going to handle it, under the assumption that it eventually would be developed. I don't think any of us, if you would have stopped time 15 years ago, would have said, hey, we were only going to have the stadium and the office building basically on the entire site. So we are. That's not our reason for doing it. There's many other reasons for doing it: housing and just having outside investment and bringing amenities to our citizens and to things to attract visitors is our primary goal. But certainly having more people there helping contribute to those costs is a good thing for the citizen as well. So again, we'll see how that goes. That's not something really we've reviewed or made any significant changes to since I've been mayor. In terms of surcharges or any of that. But as we said, I think MLB really changed that landscape probably faster because of all of those new requirements that if you want to keep a minor league team in your city, you've got to meet these certain requirements. So I think that has probably sped up the timeline on stadium and infrastructure a little bit, maybe than where we were before. But I got to dig into that to find out what those details are and what potential deltas there might be in terms of reinvestment into the stadium 15 years in.
Sure, so I think the Pensacola baseball, I think they lead their division, their conference now, or their division, in terms of capacity. Has there been any conversations about
I'm not sure about that.
expanding the capacity of the ballpark?
They typically, I mean, when the ballpark was put in, it was actually, they needed a waiver from the league to be the smallest stadium. And I think Birmingham and some of these, Biloxi and some of these others are, I'm not sure about on that number, but I don't think, I think the reason, regardless of where they land on the size of attendance, I think the reason that took place way back when was we were also the smallest market within the Southern League at that time. And what you don't want is a large stadium that's half full. You know, you want to try to build the right size stadium to meet demand. Again, that would, if any type of conversation like that would be taking place, or that request would probably come from the ownership, that probably wouldn't start with us if they were to come and say, hey, we need more capacity. But just knowing the little I do know about that in years past, I'd be surprised if that would be the primary request. I think you have a 15-year-old stadium, you know, that you start to reach that point where, you know, there's going to be upgrades that would need to be required regardless, you know, and some of those have already taken place. AC units in the locker room, you know, things like that have already had to be replaced. But, you know, like owning a home, you know, you start to get to 15 years, it's time for a new roof, it's time for a new AC. So I think we already have those. And then the speed up from Major League Baseball of saying, you need to have these specific amenities as well, I think is probably what's going to move the train a little faster for us to have a big conversation about it. Anything else? Yeah.
You know, Christmas is quickly approaching.
Yeah.
Then comes the drag show.
Uh-huh.
I'm just curious to know if you heard anything from the Attorney General regarding the City Council rejecting that push to cancel the show.
No, I haven't heard anything, and you know, I've got a good working relationship with the current Attorney General, and I've got the utmost confidence in Adam Cobb as our city attorney. So, you know, what I try to know what I know and know what I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'll allow the lawyers to lawyer and you know, allow it to take shape. You know, my position really hasn't changed on this issue, and when we look at risk profiles of us taking action. So that I have not changed on that at all. But again, the AG is in his position for a reason, and I respect. I can certainly respect any opinion that comes from that office the same way I can respect an opinion that comes from Adam, who's done a wonderful job here as city attorney, and certainly his number one job is to look out for the city's best interests and not putting us in a vulnerable situation. So, you know, I'll leave that, you know, where it is, and I'll let the lawyers lawyer, and we'll see what happens.
And do you all plan on sending a letter in return?
I do not. I can only speak administratively. The council certainly could decide to do that, you know, but at this point, the mayor's office or from my desk, we won't be taking any action at this point. I think if the council decides that they ask the city attorney to do that, then we'll see what happens from there.
I know a lot of people have expressed concern about, you know, their children being exposed to the performers. Have you heard any assurance from the singer or the management company that the performers will not be outside of the facility?
Yeah, and frankly, I don't know that we've needed it. I mean, we've never. I'm trying to remember if there's ever been a request of any organizer to have anything happen outside the facility. But I can tell you from a security standpoint, from you know, we're following all the same protocols and procedures, security measures that are on the ticket that are required of the show. I'm certainly you're going to have to ask Jeff Sharp and the Sanger specifically, or Legends, about their specific operational needs. But I can tell you nothing has changed for this show, for the show the next night on Christmas Eve, or every other show in between. You know, everything that as it pertains to the small part that the city is in the grand scheme of an operation, which is we don't run this at all. You know, we don't expect there to be anything that's any different about this than any other show that was here this year.
And like you said, you don't run this at all, but given the amount of pushback that it's gotten, do you all plan on maybe having more city involvement in these events that are coming to Pensacola moving forward?
No, it's, you know, we have operators for a reason. And, again, that's what their job is to handle that, to manage that. And, if they are deciding that they want to have different types of shows or on different days and all that, I would defer that to them since they are the operator.
Shifting gears, what are your thoughts on the regional traffic center opening up today, and what role will that play on lights within city limits?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great modernization, and on the laundry list of things that people ask somebody in this position in public, sometimes on that list is, hey, why is that light so long, or why is that light so short? Any technological advances, and certainly are much needed around here, and not only from a public safety standpoint to be able to get people through when we need to be able to get people through. But just overall modernization. I'm certain there are lights in the city and in the county that may have been set the same way before there was as many people flying out of our airport or as much traffic going in. That there's natural things that probably don't get looked at as often as they need to. So any ability to modernize getting people around our city safer and getting around it faster is a good thing.
Mayor, is any update on the Bay Center district collaboration?
Yeah, we're moving as aggressively as we can on the report. I did speak to Board Chair Kohler over the weekend at some of the Veterans Day things. Saw him a couple times over the weekend, and I know they're ready to. So nothing of substance yet, but we are urgent about it, and trying to get everything up and moving, so we can start to have those bigger conversations about what we should do there. So our passion for getting that going, it has not changed. We're just, waiting to make sure we have all the information first before we go out and say what should or shouldn't be done. And certainly we want to make sure our community is involved in all that.
Today is Frank Patty Sr.'s birthday.
Mhm.
You send him well wishes?
Well, listen, I love Frank Patty Sr. I love Frank Jr. I love the entire family. I've known them or of them for since as long as I've been alive. So, maybe they won't send me one, but but look, again, I think it's a crown jewel of our community, and I'm really hoping and really optimistic that we can find a viable solution for everybody. So, we absolutely wish him the best. And if I know him as well as I think I do, I bet he's working and calling numbers out there today. So, not taking the day off. So, we definitely appreciate that.
Mayor, we recently saw the partnership with the VO scooters end here
Yeah.
downtown. You mentioned there would be room moving forward to maybe revisit that. So what alternatives are you all considering, if any, right now?
Yeah, so I've got Caitlin, our transportation planner, is coming up with a report of what those options are. So the short answer is I don't know specifically what it would be, but there's a multitude of options. There's manual bicycles, which will more than likely require a subsidy, meaning that's not going to be something that's going to pay for itself with rental or anything like that. That would have to be something that the city or private business would want to invest in. And you actually see that with some of the bicycle programs around the country. Sometimes it's a major corporation or somebody like that helps sponsor it because it's not going to pencil on its own. And again, remember with the VO situation, there were very few dollars that were coming in. That wasn't a revenue stream or a revenue driver for the city really at all. It was a nominal amount of money. It was to increase transportation. So we could look at manual. We could look at motorized bicycles. Does that make more sense and translate better than a scooter, a seated scooter? I don't know. And again, I'll rely on our expert to kind of take a look at that. So nothing of substance really yet to say, hey, we would pick this type, but we're in that assessment phase to say, all right, well, we'll look at 3 or 4 different options, and there might be options that come to me that I didn't just mention to you that I'm not aware of that we'll consider. So, but we have an open mind about it. I like the general idea of having multimodal. It's a lot of the reason we're doing Palafox, right? Is that we don't need to be solely reliant on the car in the heart of our downtown. If we can move people around in a more efficient way, we should. So we are still wide open and open-minded about making that happen. We just got to find what that right solution is.
And what has the feedback been so far?
honestly pretty minimal, and that's why we did the data before we shut it down to say, hey, residents, how do you feel about it? So other than the onslaught of emails that Theo texted everybody, including me, and said you should write the mayor, that was my friends enjoyed that one when I sent them it'd say you urge Mayor Reeves to do whatever, and it went to my phone. But and so I said I actually wrote back and said I just told him, but other than that flurry during that time, we've heard very little feedback, and I think for every feedback of someone that misses them, we hear feedback that people are glad they're gone. So, I think that's what we saw in the data is that generally our downtown residents, our overall city residents, didn't necessarily rank them favorably. But again, we're happy to keep an open mind and look at what options are out there moving forward. Anything else? Thanks, guys.